Hi, welcome to our module 2 of the Spring Boot course. So in this module or in this specific lesson, what we are going to do is we are going to extend our example application, and we are going to slowly build our application. So what we are going to start here is we are going to build a very simple controller, REST controller based upon our Spring Boot application, and then we are going to talk a little bit about the those controller, right? Adding the annotation to the controller, adding a method to the controller, adding a mapping to the controller. Idea here is to give you an understanding or a feel that it's really easy to start working with your Spring Boot application, right? So let's get started. Let's build our first controller. Okay, so we have our uh, first application. There is nothing, it's just a bare bones Spring Boot application. Let me to increase the font a little bit. All right, okay. So if you see, there is nothing much inside this package, just our main Spring Boot application, just to start the things, right? So let's see what's going to happen if we start our application. Let's start this one, okay. So our application started, okay. Okay, let's try to run our application to see what is going to happen, okay. Localhost 8080. Well, so this is the error page which was sent back by the Spring Boot. And why this happened? Because we don't have any mapping in place. We don't have any kind of a return which is coming out from our Spring Boot application, right? It's just a bare-bone application which says it's a web application. So let's add our first uh, controller to it and see how everything will come into the picture and how it start behaving, how the application will start behaving. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a package. Let's call it as a controller, because we are going to create a number of different kind of a packages controller. Then we are going to have our data object layer, then we are also going to have our data accept DAO layer, service layer. So let's keep it as separate because we are going to build this project. Okay, what I'm going to do is, let's say we call it as a greeting controller for now. Okay, we will come up with the better names. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to call it as a REST controller. Okay, because I'm going to work onto the REST application. So what I did here is I tell the Spring Boot application that this is my controller, and this controller is of it's basically for the REST. It's going to serve the REST APIs, right? The only difference between controller and REST controller is REST controller is a combination of a controller, and it also take care of your response body. If you're not familiar with this one, just search for this one, you will get a better idea. Or I'm going to cover a little bit about the basics of Spring MVC and some of the annotations which might be handy for the REST APIs later in this course. Okay. Now we still do, so we have our first controller, but there is nothing happening in this controller, right? So let's create our first method, which is going to return a simple hello or a greeting back to the client, right? So what we did is we created our first greeting, a method greeting, and what we are returning back from this is greeting from the first controller. What, and on top of it, what I said is that this method greeting, the mapping for this method is it's going to accept the get request, and on top of it this method is mapped to this URI. So that means anything, if you say http localhost 8080 or whatever your domain name is slash greeting, the Spring Boot application knows that okay, this is the method which it should be triggering to send the response back to the customer, or to the your to your REST API. Okay, so let's see that into action. Okay, what I'm going to see is greetings. So I call this method greetings from our first controller, right? So there were a number of different things that happened behind the scene for us. I just want to emphasize that okay, we are going to start building our application based upon the Spring Boot. This was the first basic step for you. Uh, there were, as I said, right, there were a number of different things that were happening behind the scene. Your server was automatically created for you. For example, you only added a REST controller annotation, but you never have any kind of a scan annotation methods or something like that. Everything is being taken care by the Spring Boot automatically for you, right? So that was our first controller. Now in next of the chapters or in the lessons, I'm just going to build a little bit on top of this one to give you an idea how easy it is to return the object back from your controller. For example, this was a simple string, but what happens, or do you really need to add some extra logic or extra code in case you want to send an object back from your controller? So that will, we are going to build this controller a little bit in more detail in next lesson, and then we subsequently going to build our first shopping cart application based upon the Spring Boot. So we will be continuing to get more in-depth understanding of the Spring Boot, some of the inbuilt capability of the Spring Boot, and then we are going to continue building our shopping cart application based upon this one. All right, thank you.